Ladies and gentlemen, the Tales from Arabian Night. It is a very marvelous translation, translated by Sir Richard Francis Burton into English. Now I'm going to tell you the tale of the merchant and the genie. There was once a very wealthy merchant who had a great deal of business in various cities. Now one day he mounted his horse and went forth to collect debts that were owed to him in certain towns. The heat was so terrible along the way that he dismounted and sat down beneath a tree. He put his hand into his saddlebag, took out some bread and dry dates, and began to break his fast. When he had finished eating the dates, he threw away the pits with all his might, and suddenly a huge genie appeared, brandishing a drawn sword. As he approached the merchant, he said, "Stand up, so I can slay you just as you have slain my son." "How have I slain your son?" asked the merchant. "When you ate the dates and threw away the pits, they struck my son in the breast as he was walking by, and he died right on the spot. By Allah, if I slew your son," the merchant responded, "I slew him by chance. Therefore I beg your pardon." "There's nothing you can do," asserted the genie. "You must die." Then he seized the merchant, threw him down on the ground, and raised his sword to strike him. But the merchant wept and cried out, "May Allah take pity on me and hear my plea." "Cut your words short," the genie answered. "You must die." But the merchant pleaded with him, "Listen to me. There's a great deal of money that's owed to me. I'm very wealthy. We have a wife and a children and many pledges in hand. So permit me to go home and take care of all my claim, and I shall come back to you at the beginning of the new year. Allah be my witness, and I'll return to you, and then you can do what you want with me." The genie accepted his promise and let him go. So the merchant returned to his city and completed all his transaction. He gave all people their due, and after informing his wife and children what had happened to him, he appointed a guardian and lived with his family for a full year. At the end of that time, he performed the wuzu ablution to purify himself before death, took his shroud under his arm, said farewell to family, friends and neighbors, and went forth against his own will. As he left, they began weeping, wailing, and beating their breast. But he traveled until he arrived at the same garden where he had encountered the genie. The day of his arrival was the beginning of the new year. And as he sat weeping over what had happened to him, a very old and honorable sheikh approached, leading a ghazal on a chain. After saluting the merchant and wishing him a long life, he asked, "Why are you sitting all alone in this place? Don't you know that it is the abode of evil spirit?" The merchant related to him what had happened with him, with genie, and the old man was astounded and said, "By Allah, I have never seen such fidelity, nor I've ever heard such a strange story. If it were engraved for all to see, it would serve as a warning for all those who need to be warned." Then sitting himself near the merchant, he said, "My brother, I won't leave you until I see what is going to happen between you and this Ifrit. And after he sat down, the two were talking. The merchant became extremely anxious, terrified, and depressed. Just then a second sheikh approached them, and with him were two dogs, both black greyhound. After the second man greeted them with salam, he asked them, "Why are you sitting in this place? Don't you know it is the abode of demon, genie?" So they told him the tale of the beginning to end, and they had been conversing for long before a third sheikh arrived, and with him was a she-mule with bright bay coat. He saluted them and asked them why they were seated in that place, and they told him the entire story, and he too sat down with them. Just then a dust cloud advanced, and a mighty devil appeared amidst the waste. Soon the cloud opened, revealing the genie with a drawn sword and eyes shooting fire sparks of rage. And he stepped forward, grabbed hold of the merchant, and separated him from the rest of the men. "Stand up so I can slay you, just as you slew my son, the soul of my life," the genie bellowed. The merchant wailed and wept, and the three old men, being sighing and crying with their companion, soon the first man, the owner of the ghazal, approached the Ifrit and kissed his hand. "O genie, crown of the kings of the jinn, if I were to tell you a story about me and the ghazal, and if you were to consider it wondrous, would you give me a third of his merchant's blood? If you tell me your tale, O sheikh, and it is indeed marvelous," the genie replied, "I'll give you a third of his blood." Thereupon the old man began to tell his story. Ladies and gentlemen, in a next episode, I will tell you the story of the first sheikh, the second sheikh, and the third sheikh, what had happened while they had narrated their own story to the genie. Thank you very much. You must see the other episode.